Yo, what's going on, guys? Sekapoko here, bringing you another Genshin Impact video. For this video, we'll be doing a showcase for Fischl. And we'll be going over her arts, going over what build I'm going to be using for her in this video, and what potentially are the best builds for Fischl going forward, so you can get an idea what an early game build is, mid game build, and late game builds are for Fischl. So guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so here's Fischl in raw damage. You can see some of the damage I'm doing. You can see the massive amount of hits that I'm doing against the target and why it does a lot of damage there. Now, Fischl has some crazy talents. My current Fischl right now is 3 out of 6, I believe, for her constellation. And the reason she does so much damage here is because she has this ability called Gaze of the Deep. Gaze of the Deep is going to do 22% of her attack damage when Oz is not present on the field. So you get the double hits up on people all the time, and that's why when you do an auto attack, it hits twice. So it's kind of cool to watch, like, just mass damage going in all the time, just an extra 200 every time you attack. Now, when you do get Oz out, of course, the set I have on right now allows me to get a little bit increase in damage. You can see my damage kind of ramp up on my autos. The current build I got for Fischl, you can see crazy, interesting damage where you're just nuking people down. Does lots of damage, lots of hits, and it's very fun. Overall, Fischl as a main DPS unit can do very, very crazy hits and very crazy damage. And what I have noticed for her is there are many different kinds of builds for her. I have done 2 separate builds for Fischl. The first build I did for Fischl was a crit-based build, and it does a little bit more damage. But I was also at a higher level, and I'm actually kind of curious to see if we're going to do even more damage. Now, the main thing for Fischl as well is I also don't have this passive yet, and her passive ability is if a character triggers an electro-related elemental reaction when Oz is on the field, the enemy is stricken with Thundering Retribution, dealing 80% of Fischl's attack. So it does a very large amount of damage if you do have, Oz on the field and you do an electro reaction. Now, with Fischl's abilities, you can see she doesn't actually start with very, very high damage. She starts at 50% attack damage, and getting a 20% damage is actually almost half of the original damage that you're dealing. So because you have a very high hit with your original characters, you're actually getting a pretty much half hit of what you're getting. So you start at 50 and you scale up. So the more damage you can do, the better. More damage, more hits. Alright, so this dude down here, I'm going to go ahead and do one of these, and I'm going to go ahead and do a charge attack, but not charge it up all the way. 873, 873, and you can see just 900 damage. So, kind of an interesting character, but if I just get this guy up here with a full charge attack, you'll notice it actually does 1700 damage. And why does it do that for the full charge attack? Well, Fischl is kind of awesome with this bow. The bow I'm using right now for this Fischl is going to be an Amos bow, and I don't have it ascended yet, but I can ascend it. I just, I'm missing some shit. I need slimes, and I haven't found any slimes yet. But I'm using the Amos bow for her. I have found that the Skyward Harp does a lot cooler damage burst with her, and I kind of prefer the Skyward Harp as far as an overall weapon for Fischl. But with the Amos bow, you do get a large amount of increased normal attack damage, as you can see, and if you're farther away from the target, you actually get more damage. So as far as a overall build goes, it's probably a comparable weapon to the Skyward Harp. Skyward Harp is more of a burst weapon, whereas this weapon is more of a consistent damage weapon. Now, overall for Fischl, what I have on my artifacts right now is going to be a martial art set, and the martial art set is basically an increased normal damage set. Now, this set right here is not going to be Fischl's best set. This is definitely not her best set. This is her best early game set or best mid game set, I would have to say. This is probably what you're going to lie if you are in the mid game. Is a very good set to run. For the Hourglass piece, I am running a 23% attack piece because it actually boosts my attack. For the Goblet piece, I am running a physical damage piece that is not even linked to anything. I literally just try to find the only physical damage piece that I could get, and that physical damage piece, which is much harder to obtain than the attack pieces, is probably the most important piece. So if you wanted to boost your damage a lot, physical damage is the way to go if you're trying to do large amounts of white damage. And the physical damage, of course, will boost the amount of damage that Oz is going to deal with the 20% hit that you're going to be doing as well. Also, I'm using an attack set on my last piece here instead of a crit build, but a crit build would also be a very smart choice. And what I do want to do is use a crit piece, but I unfortunately cannot because I do not have a martial arts piece that is the right type. So a crit build on this would probably be an optimal choice. And the reason it would be an optimal choice is because of Fischl's overall attack stats. With you're using the Skyward Harp, the Skyward Harp is going to give you a 20% attack crit damage bonus, giving you a total of 70+% on your crit damage. And if you do get a crit damage piece, you're going to get probably about an extra 20% crit rate over here, boosting your crit to over 30%. And if you have over 30% crit on your Fischl, you are going to do mass amounts of damage. Again, this is not the best set for Fischl. This is probably one of the better early game sets for Fischl because you can do large amounts of damage against targets and you can actually chain your damage very, very easily. So we're going to go into a dungeon and I'm going to go ahead and just clear the dungeon out very quickly, but I'm only going to use auto attacks and you can kind of see how well she does in a dungeon with just strictly physical damage. All right, let's go and start the fight up. Now, with Fischl here, you can see just with the white damage we're doing, we can just do large amounts of mass damage to people, and we can dodge out and just continuously just do white hits. So you can see it does a decent fair chunk of damage here. And you can just continuously do white damage to clear people. It's a very good carry character, as you can see. And if you do want to, you can actually get some elements in here to do some more damage. All right, so now he's kind of seeing the white damage from Fischl. Let's go ahead and use some elemental reactions here. Boom. And we can start using Oz. And you can see once I pop Oz, my martial arts stick comes into play and I start doing way more white damage because the way this works is the martial art pieces, if you use an ability, you're actually going to get increased white damage. So you can use my ultimate ability here, get out, and it does not increase my damage, as you can see. You know, oh, it actually does. It does increase your damage. Not by much though. Okay. I'm going to use Oz and move it over. I wonder if that triggers it. Moving Oz. Moving Oz seems to trigger it. So if you move Oz, you trigger the elemental reaction. So if you use your ultimate ability and then trigger E with your Oz, you can actually trigger the passive. So I'm going to go ahead and use it again. And because I can trigger it again, I think I can get the attack bonus up again. Yep, you can see I triggered it again. So right before Oz leaves, make sure to hit your E again, and then you can trigger that back up. I'm going to use Oz again. And then I'm going to trigger him so I get my elemental damage up. You can see the damage arrows coming up on my character. And that's how we know that I'm getting the damage increase. So I'm going to use trigger Oz again. And then we're going to back out. So later on, there are other sets, of course, that you do get. And of course, in the other groupings, there are two sets that I would recommend for people for Fischl. The first one that comes out later, of course, if you do want it, is going to be the Heart of Bravery, which is another option that you can use. And the other option, which comes much, much later, is going to be one that has physical damage increase. Then the one that has physical damage increase, which is... Where is it? Is it this one? Here it is. Bloodstained Chivalry. Now this one with a physical damage increase of 25% is a huge attack bump, and I definitely recommend running something like this, the Bloodstained Chivalry, to give that physical damage bonus if you're looking to do large amounts of physical damage with Fischl. You can see after defeating an opponent, increases charge attack damage by 50%. Now the entire set is not necessarily necessary, but if you do want to use just the physical damage portion of it and then switch to over a gladiator set or some other type of piece, that would be also a good idea. You could also do a half martial art piece and a half Bloodstained Chivalry piece, and that might give you even more damage with your white damage if you're going to be using Fischl as a main DPS. All right, now we're going to do a dungeon with Fischl as a support DPS, so you can kind of see how that goes. All right, so Fischl as a support DPS, right now what I got on is I have an instructor set on that is going to help out. And I also have an electro damage bonus piece. Now this instructor set, the electro damage bonus piece, is going to put my stats to around, let's see here, 177 elemental mastery, which is not really that great, but you know, it is going to do some electro reactions, which can be fun. So we're hopefully going to do a decent amount of damage here, and I'm going to go ahead and start this up. Okay, let's go here. Electro damage, you can see there's a pretty decent amount. All right, you can see it's triggering for over 1,000 damage as just the bird out right now. So that's pretty cool. Okay, so we're just going to switch over, and you can see decent damage that we're getting. We can run Chi-Chi as primary right now for a second. All right, I don't know if my bird's up again. Let's go look. Does not look like bird's up. I'll wait for that bird to get up again. I'm gonna dip out for a second while I wait for the bird. Okay, bird's up. You can see the bird does about 2k on the AoE when it comes out, and I can trigger it with other reactions. We can use Mona with it too. Boom. You can see the bird just doing pretty good work here. And then we're just gonna go ahead and drop one of these. Okay, and I think I can get the ulti from the bird out in a second here. Okay, the bird's out, ulti's out. Okay, bring the bird over here, and we're just gonna go ahead and one of these, boom, and okay, I'm gonna go ahead and bring the bird out again, and we're gonna do one of these. And you can see the bird just doing some decent damage here. So you can kind of see how Fischl can work as a support DPS here. kind of nice to be able to use her. I don't have the perfect bow for her for this kind of set, but I do have a decent bow on right now, which is a legendary bow, so it's kind of good. It's kind of good. So Fischl support, Fischl DPS, both of which are pretty viable options. As you can see, you can use Fischl's bird to trigger elemental reactions, and the bird will do pretty darn high amounts of damage. But for the build for her, for an early game build, you can go with the instructor set for that. All right, so for an end game support build for Fischl, obviously you're gonna probably want to go with a Thundering Fury set, which is going to increase electro damage bonus. It's going to increase damage of Overload, Electro Charge, and Superconduct by 40%, and triggering such effects decrease elemental skill cooldown by 1 second. It can only occur every 8 seconds. And since the bird hits multiple times, you're probably going to be able to decrease your soul cooldowns really, really heavily, so that Fischl can do high amounts of support DPS. So both builds, I think, are very, very effective for Fischl. I personally, if I'm using Fischl, try to use her as a main DPS versus support DPS, but I think both builds do have their value, and I think, as you can see clearly in this video, that both builds are very, very strong. My favorite build so far, as far as all 3 builds that I've tried on Fischl for artifact sets, was so far my favorite was was the early game build that I tried with a half martial art piece set as well as a berserker set, to get like a kind of hybrid mix with a crit race setup with a Skyward Harp, and those were the ones I ended up using in the game. All right, so let's go over Fischl's constellations a little bit and some more interesting things about Fischl for our talents and as well as constellations. So first off, Gaze of the Deep is the most important piece that you need in any kind of build. For a normal attack build, you definitely need Gaze of the Deep. As far as for a support build, the best thing for a support build is 2 out of 6 for Knight Rider. Knight Rider, of course, is going to do 200% attack damage as an AoE when you put out the bird. So you put out the bird and you do it in melee range, it does massive damage, as you saw in the video. As far as doing a 4/6, whenever Midnight Phantasmagoria, you'd actually do 220% damage at electro damage to the surrounding enemies. This is actually kind of good, but like not insane. And then 6 out of 6, this one increases the duration of Oz by 2 seconds. Additionally, Oz attacks with the 30% when the character is present, dealing 30% of Fischl attack as electro damage. So this is a very strong ability. If you're wailing out, 6 out of 6 Fischl is pretty fucking nuts. I don't have it, but it is super good. As far as talents go, you can kind of see that when you increase your talents here, you get a lot more damage. For the bird damage, it does actually 118% of your actual raw attack, so a large amount of attack is very, very good for boosting Oz's damage. For Midnight Phantasmagoria, you only get a little bit of damage here, 224%, but you just run through it and then you get a free bird cast, so you always have the bird up, so it's really nice. If you ever get a tournament where you don't have bird up, it's kind of bad. Now, this one, of course, is going to give you large amounts of electro damage, so if you do want to, if you're going for the Fizz build, this won't do as much, but it does tons of damage either way. Now, as far as other characters go, other weapons go, the weapons that I would prefer for Fischl, for best weapons, I would say the best weapon for Fischl for a crit-based build is going to be the Skyward Harp. And if you're going to be using any kind of crit-based build, that is the definite way to go, because it increases your crit damage, and you can actually get large amounts of crits in, of course, and you'll have the big AoE hits from the Skyward Harp. If you're looking to just do raw damage, you're not really focused on critical hits, and you just want to see how much mass damage you can do to targets, the Amos bow is a very, very good option, because you can increase NAD as well as aim shot damage very, very heavily. Now, for a support character, I didn't end up using it just now, but the Stringless is a very, very good option for her, because it's going to increase your elemental skill damage and elemental burst damage by 24 to 48%. So that would probably be the best possible weapon for her as a support weapon. That's kind of how it looks. Sorry, it wasn't on the screen. But that's basically what I would choose as far as a support build. However, if you're looking for more of a budget build for a free-to-play player for a weapon, the Rust weapon is an exceptional weapon that you can get. It is a very, very strong weapon that you can get out of the banners. It increases normal attack damage by 40 to 80%, but also decreases aim shot damage, which is very, very strong either way. So that is an exceptional weapon to use. And for the craftable weapons, there are 2 different weapons that you can use. There is, of course, the compound bow, and I believe the prototype crescent. I believe it is. I believe it's the prototype crescent. I would say that the prototype crescent is not really my cup of tea. And what I would definitely do is use the compound bow if using a craftable. The normal attack and aim shot hits increase by 4 to 8% and actually stack up to 4 times. Is pretty cool. And with Fischl, since she attacks so fast already, you can actually get a pretty large amount of attack stacks as well as attack speed stacks on her, so you can get even faster. So I'm not sure if it's going to be the best build in the world, but I know that that would probably be the build I would choose as a player versus another build. And you can get pretty comparable damage on the compound bow than you can to the Amos bow once it starts ramping up. So that's what I would do. Hope that helps you guys out. But my name's Sekapoko. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did enjoy the video, of course, like and subscribe, all the fun stuff, and you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.